My name is Gene Baur. I'm the president and co-founder of Farm Sanctuary.
Okay, Gene. Perhaps you could tell me a little bit more about the Farm Sanctuary.
Yeah, Farm Sanctuary is an organization that works to prevent the inhumane treatment of animals on farms, to raise awareness about the abuses of factory farming, and to encourage people to make food choices that are consistent with their own values and consistent with their own interests. And I think for most people that means not buying factory farmed meat, milk, and eggs. And for many people, I think it would mean not eating animals because, killing animals is an inherently violent act, and most people are a little bit uncomfortable looking at it.
What transpired or inspired you to get started with this and motivated you to create this mission?
Yeah. Well, I grew up always wanting to do something good. I didn't want to just get a job and make a lot of money, and which was what I was encouraged to do, like most people are encouraged to do growing up in the U.S. And as time went, I got involved with children's organizations and with environmental organizations and with consumer organizations and animal organizations. And as time went, I started recognizing that the industrial animal farming industry was creating negative consequences for practically everybody. Every group that I was concerned about was being harmed by this industrial farming institution. So I think, unfortunately, people have become very disconnected from the source of their food, and in some cases, people might feel a little uneasy about what's happening to animals. So there's sort of a willful denial and not looking very closely. But I think there's currently now a food movement where people are learning more and are increasingly concerned about the inhumane treatment of animals and also about the health consequences, the chemicals that are used, the environmental pollution that's resulting from this factory farming. So I think there is right now, thankfully, a movement towards farmers markets, towards community-supported agriculture programs, towards community gardens, and people getting more connected with their food, and I think that's a very good thing.
Are you concerned with environmental or climate change?
Yes, I'm very concerned with environmental hazards and climate change. I think that, if we destroy this planet, well, actually we won't probably destroy the planet, we'll destroy its ability to keep us on it. The planet, I think, will survive, but much of the life that's on it now could be very negatively impacted. So I'm very concerned about human impacts and global warming and climate change, yes. But being a vegan, though, is really, I think, the most important thing anybody can do to lighten their footprint on the planet. And that means, not supporting the industrial farming industry, which relies on fossil fuels. There was an article in the New York Times a while back that compared the amount of fossil fuels needed to produce a vegetarian meal versus a meat meal. And the author of that article talked about how it took 16 times more fossil fuels to produce a meat meal as opposed to a vegetarian meal. So eating plants is very energy efficient, it's healthier, and it doesn't require animals to be fed all this grain, which is totally inefficient. So it requires a lot less land, a lot less water, and also it doesn't require these animals to be slaughtered. And these slaughterhouses are violent, bloody places. They're very wasteful. Factory farms are also huge polluters. So by eating plants instead of animals, we can, limit our negative impact on the planet.
I've come to learn that you've recently put out a book.
Yeah.
Perhaps maybe you could just tell my followers a little bit more about that.
Yeah, the book is called Farm Sanctuary, Changing Hearts and Minds About Animals and Food. And it talks about the work of Farm Sanctuary from the early days, investigating factory farms, and continuing today with our large visitor programs and our legislative and advocacy work. But there are stories there of animals that we have rescued in the past, some that have literally been taken off of dead piles or out of trash cans. There's discussion about the legislative process and the frustrations and the challenges there because, the agribusiness industry is very influential. And we have, great challenges when we're trying to pass laws through the legislative process. So what we've done instead now is we start going to the initiative process where we put measures on the ballot and voters get a chance to decide these issues. And thankfully, when people have a chance to vote and to decide whether or not they think it's okay for animals to be treated the way they are in today's farms, most citizens think there needs to be change and these animals need to be treated better. So we're having some success there now. And so the book talks about those kinds of things.